Are you ready for some more music trivia? It's time for my update to musical panning. Okay, before we get into it, you know I'm going to ask you to do all of the things just like I do every video, and as always, I do appreciate when you do them, so thank you very much for that. But let's talk about musical panning. This is a project that was created by Mari of Patriot Makeup, and I haven't seen her post anything in a while, so I hope she's doing okay. This project runs from January 2nd of 2022 to January 3rd of 2023. It is either a rolling style or finishing style project with monthly updates. Unless, of course, you get behind, then you can do bi-monthly or quarterly. Mari's got it set up so it's super flexible. The hashtag on this is hashtag musical panning. Now, what Mari has done, in case you don't know, I'm guessing you do, but in case, or if you need a refresher, she went from the 1940s through the 2020s, picked 3 songs from each decade, artist title, created a prompt. Now, one of the things we are allowed to do with this is to bring in a song for each decade once we have finished her list. I did this with a twist, as you probably already know, and so I have been bringing in some of my own songs, and will continue to do that. And then I want to try and start her list over. That's kind of just my personal goal. So let's talk about what's going on. Since the beginning, I have had this. So this is my But First Espresso eyeliner from Essence, and it is for the prompts, the 1940s Hank Williams I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, because it's a cry-proof item, it's a waterproof eyeliner, and the 1950s Johnny Cash song Walk the Line, which is supposed to be an eye or a lip liner. So I used the same item for multiple prompts if they fit into that same category. Now, my goal on this has always been to finish, and it's getting a little bit smaller. If you can see my new progress mark in orange there. So, I mean, it's slow going. It's not something I use constantly, but I do try and use it consistently every month, and I'm hoping that by the end of this project, this one will be gone because I have more of them. Why buy one? If you love it, buy 6. Okay, not quite 6, but still, I tend to buy multiples of things when I enjoy them. So that is staying in still. Now, for the 1980s, I put in the band Any Trouble with the song Second Choice. And I did that as a drugstore dupe for a pricey item. I brought in the CoverGirl Cheekers blush. This one is in 108 Pink Candy. This is a dupe for the Dior Rosy Glow Blush in pink. And this is what it... Okay. It's a real light pink. It's kind of dusty. That's a good shot of the color on that for you. I had a 10-use goal on it. I did hit that, and so I pulled it out because I'm also working on some other blushes. So this one is going to be a rollout. All right. Then for the 2010s, I brought in the band The Stripes with the song Angel Eyes. Yeah, that's the one I brought in for a growl. It's me. I love music. What can I say? Certain things just grab onto me and don't let go. So this was any eye product, and I brought in the Mary Kay Under Eye Corrector. It was a brand new, well, I think it was relatively brand new. I may have used it a few times, but I put it in for a 22-use goal, and it was 23.1 grams at the start. In July, it was 23.0, and now it is at 22.8, and I've actually used it 29 times. So I'm going to pull this from the project. Obviously, I'm going to continue to use it. Just not track it anymore since we can get some new stuff in that way. Okay, so for the 2020s, I brought in the band Maneskin, whom I adore, even their Italian stuff, and I brought in the song For Your Love. And for that, it was any product you love. I brought in the Galactic Rose Oil Petal Gloss. Started at 14.5 grams. July was down to 13.6. And now it is 13.4, and it needs to settle some. Okay, doe foot we don't care about. But you can see that I am making progress without the doe foot in it, and this is the one that has all of the floaties and the rose petals. And mine is actually starting to get a little bit cloudy. I don't know why. It just is from use. So when it is closed, that's how much it looks like is left, as opposed to what it looks like without the dough foot moving the product up. So that is also remaining in. Now, for the 2000s, I brought in the band the 925s, and I brought in the song You're So Pretty, an item that you would grab for a spur of the moment getaway. And with that, I went with my NARS lipstick in the shade Damage. My goal is to finish this. I'm wearing it today, but I'm wearing it over a couple of things. So this is all I've got left. It's a nice kind of pinky rosy color. And I actually, of course I made a mess doing this, but I do actually have a progress line for you, which I got lipstick all over. But you can see there that it is going down. I have been using it, and I've used it 8 different days to get that much use on it. So that is where we are with that. Now, one of the things that Mari always did, or sometimes, I guess, I don't know if it's always or not. Anyway, one of the things that Mari had done in one of her updates was she had talked about what she was listening to on repeat, like what song was stuck in her head that she kept playing and playing and playing. And so I'm going to ask that. I'm not quite sure exactly where I want to go with this. If there's something that's been either stuck in your head or playing on repeat on your playlist, throw it in the comments for me. For me, one of the things that for some reason has sparked a quest, journey, I don't even know what all you want to call it, is the song It's a Man's World, which is a James Brown song. But the first time I ever heard that song was covered by Concrete Blonde, which I do like that version. My all-time favorite version of that song is the live version by the MC5. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be hearing more about the MC5 from me. Maybe not in this project, but in another, because it has set me off on a rabbit trail like you wouldn't believe. Videos, books, CDs, I am all over this. For some reason, it's sucking me in, and I just have to know way more about it. And the thing that I'm finding a lot of is stuff with Warren Kramer, who is the guitarist. And this kind of, okay, are you following the crazy train here? Because this kind of leads to where I'm going with what I'm bringing in. I recently was watching a documentary, because I do that a lot, especially if it's a music one, called Rumble. I think it was on Netflix. And I hadn't really thought much about what it was about. I just like, oh, it's a music thing, I'll watch it, and threw it on. And Wayne Kramer's in it, actually, which was interesting. The documentary is about Link Wray. Now, Link Wray may not be a name you know, but I'm pretty sure the song I'm bringing in, you've heard. In fact, I would bet on it. You might not know it's him, but... So let's talk just a touch about Link Wray. Link Wray is probably one of the most influential Native American guitarists in the history of rock and roll. Can I document and back that claim? No, but if you look at who he's influenced, you'll see why I'm saying that. So Jimmy Page cites him in the documentary that I can't even think of the name of, that he did with Edge and Jack White. He talks about Link Wray. Pete Townsend has said that if he had not ever heard Link or seen Link Wray, he probably would have never picked up a guitar. He's influenced Iggy Pop, Neil Young. Bob Dylan wrote a song that he recorded in 1975 with Eric Clapton called Sign Language, and that references Link Wray. Now, let's talk about the song itself that I want to bring in, and then we're going to give you a couple more of his accolades, because he is a widely recognized musician. The song I'm bringing in is called Rumble. This song started when he was playing live and somebody asked him if he could play the stroll. So of course he says yes, even though he doesn't know how to play it. Rumble is what came out of that. Now, I have a weird history with the song The Stroll also. Once again, a little bit of a crazy train detour here, but bear with me. My mom had two older sisters. They both since passed away. So my mom's the youngest in the family, and her next siblings are her two sisters. It was the boys, then the girls in birth order. Her eldest of the two sisters was 7 years older than she was. The three of us were going to Texas in the car to go see my grandparents one time, and we must have been listening to the oldie station or something. But anyway, it came up, and I asked my aunt, I said, hey, do you know how to do the stroll? Because that would have been more her era. My mom was too young. I said, I really would love to learn how to do this. And my aunt's response to me was, I got married at 16 and started having kids. I didn't go to school dances. I don't know how to do it. I can't teach you. And it stuck with me. I don't know exactly why. It's not like I didn't know my aunt had gotten married really young. That's a whole nother thing, and honestly, no one really cares about that history. But anyway, it just was one of those weird things where I was like, oh, well, okay. I suppose you would have picked that up from your peers. You know, somebody picks it up and learns it from someone, and then it gets passed along, and that's how things would have been done in the 50s. But I always wanted to learn how to do the stroll, and I was never able to find anybody to teach me. So anyway, so at a dance where Link Ray is playing, they ask him if he can do this, if they can play the stroll, and he says, well, of course, but then comes up with something completely different. The original name of the song was Oddball, but Phil Everly of the Everly Brothers, please tell me you know who they are at least, said he actually renamed it Rumble because he said it sounded like a street fight, that the music itself sounded that way. Okay, so that actually makes a lot of sense. The term rumble is slang for a street fight. So I'm sure that's how Phil Everly got it. But it's a really heavy song. It's very musically distinct. The notes are crisp and booming. And so it actually has a lot of emotion in it. So even without lyrics, this song still gives an impression. And because it is such a strong song, it actually is the only song, ever, to be banned in the US that doesn't have lyrics. They literally banned radio stations throughout the US from playing this song because they were afraid it was going to incite gang street turf violence. That's an impressive feat. To this day, that has not happened again. I don't know that it actually ever would. I mean, a lot of times music is open to interpretation. Things were a little bit different back in the 50s as far as what censorship and radio airplay and things like that involved. So maybe it was partially just the times. But if nothing else, the song stands out for that reason. Now, in 2018, this song actually was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They created a new category for it called singles. The flip side of this was a 45, so it was a single song. The flip side of it was the swag. And in 2007, Link Ray himself was actually inducted into the Native American Music Hall of Fame. So you may not know his name, you may not know any of his other works, you may not even realize you know his song, but it's been in numerous movies. You've heard, I mean, okay, I want to say Pulp Fiction, but basically Quentin Tarantino has a fondness for this song too. I don't know if it was Desperado, if it was Pulp Fiction, but one of his movies, this song is in there. I'm going to link a version of the song down below. The first 3 notes of it, you're going to know the song. So what I decided to do is bring this song in, and I decided to do it as something banned because of the distinction of being such a widely banned song with no lyrics. I still find that truly fascinating. But I couldn't necessarily find something banned. So I hate the idea of cancel culture. I hate that phrase. I hate that word. I hate all of that. But let's talk about maybe a brand that is on the no-no list or the naughty list, however you want to look at it. The more brand representatives and owners and whoever else that are the face of companies do these really bad things, the longer my list of brands not to buy gets added to. Okay, that sentence made no grammatical sense. The more these people do these things, the quicker they get added to my list of brands where I'm not going to buy from that brand anymore. But that doesn't mean I don't have or don't even like some of the products from those brands that I have. So for this one, I decided to bring in this. Now, you probably know what this is. Maybe you don't. And generally, I don't even mention the name of the brand if I use their product. This is an Ultra product. This is the Glitch 2000 palette. This is what the palette looks like. It does have a little mirror on it. So I want to do this No Pan Left Behind. You've got corduroy bling that's hot on the top row. The middle row is Chill Pill, Posh, and Boy Band. The bottom row is Bring It On, As If, and Razor. So I'm going to throw this in, just No Pan Left Behind, and play around with it and see what I get. They're all kind of highly pigmented. I don't know how to even. It's typical Ofra. You know, there's a lot of shine, there's a lot of pigment, there's all kinds of fun stuff with it. So we're putting this in. I put my little note on it to do No Pan Left Behind. So that's going in for the 1950s. And then, because I had a couple of rollouts, we have another song, another band, another one of my favorites, and probably a lot more music trivia that you just didn't need to know. So let's talk about a band originally called the Ivies. Don't remember them? You may know them as Badfinger. You may not, but you may know some of their songs. So this is a Welsh band. The Ivies actually formed in 1961. But the band itself has always included Pete Hamm. And the band, even though he didn't live to the end of it, continued from the 60s to the 80s in some way. The main members were Pete Hamm, Mike Gibbons, Tom Evans, and Joey Molland. Now, Pete Hamm committed suicide in 1975, and we're going to get to some of that. Because of never getting over that, Tom Evans committed suicide in 1983. And then Mike Gibbons died of a brain aneurysm at home in 2005. So that leaves only Joey Molland still alive from the core of what Badfinger was in their heyday. And he did some touring, I think, as recently as 2015. I know he's still around. He is still active. He still does use the name Badfinger. Now, as far as albums and things like that, they're basically only credited from the 60s to the 90s. This band has the distinction, and a lot of this was Pete Hamm. He kind of was the driving force, him and Tom Evans, and they were a great songwriting duo. So this is the first band as a non-solo artist under the name The Ivies still, that was signed by the Beatles label Apple Records. They did, I want to say, 5 albums. They are considered one of the key bands for 70s power pop. They had 4 consecutive hits from 70 to 72. Come and Get It, which was actually written by Paul McCartney. And there was something going on with the label where there was a little bit of a disconnect from the members of the Beatles and the label itself. And Paul McCartney felt bad about this, so in response, he actually gave Badfinger the song he had written, Come and Get It. And he also then produced it for them. Their second one was No Matter What, which was 1970 also. The third song, Day After Day, 1971, was produced by George Harrison. Now, the fourth song is the one I'm going to put in here. It's Baby Blue from 1972, and this was produced by Todd Rundgren. I'm hoping you know some of these names. You should. Now, one of the other things, and this one you should know, there's a song that they had done called Without You. The song was recorded by them, but also by Harry Nilsson, and became a #1 hit in the UK. 24 years later, in 1994, it was also a UK #1 hit for Mariah Carey. Don't know why I couldn't get her name out there. So if nothing else, I'm sure you've heard of her. I know I pick weird stuff, but this one isn't that obscure, you guys. So, how this worked out is the guys were very fond of the members of the Beatles. They were very happy to be signed as an act for Apple Records. They were signed under the Ivies. The name Badfinger actually came from a working title of a Beatles album called it was Badfinger Boogie, and I want to say it ended up being Sgt. Pepper, but I could be wrong on that. I don't really remember which album it was. But that's where the name Badfinger came up. Others had been proposed. That's the one that stuck. When the Beatles broke up, there actually was some speculation because there were a couple of songs that came out by Badfinger. There was, and this is complete rumor and completely untrue, but there was speculation that perhaps the Beatles had secretly gotten back together, or maybe just Lennon and McCartney were still writing songs and having other people put them out. It was Pete Hamm and Tom Evans. They were poised in some way to kind of step up and fill a little bit of that void. Now, they'd already had hits. My favorite song by them is actually called Maybe Tomorrow, and I was going to put that in, but it technically was released in 68, I believe, under the Ivies, that album that is under the name The Ivies, even though it was re-released later, I believe, on the same album that is titled Maybe Tomorrow under the name Badfinger. I thought that might be cheating, so that's why I went with Baby Blue. But that is my favorite. And I want to say, okay, so after the Beatles broke up, there was a lot of infighting, a lot of contentious things going on. There were lawsuits and whatnot. Apple Records folded. Now, unfortunately, that kind of happened around the same time that Badfinger had signed on with another manager who was trying to get them a deal with a different record label. Things just kind of went boom. Everything kind of just exploded for them, and not in a good way. So, although maybe tomorrow didn't do as well as it was expected to, they did have all these consecutive hits with Apple. They get in with this new manager. He's trying to get them on another label. He's actually stealing money from them left, right, and sideways. Apple folds. They end up on another label. Then the label starts fighting back because some of the advance money is missing. They can't get a hold of the manager. There's just, the whole situation was horrible. These guys are just trying to write music, perform, tour, and make enough to survive. At one point, all of the band members and their wives and girlfriends were all living in one house, and they were getting like $5,000 here, maybe $8,000 there. But their manager had somehow fudged the $250,000 advance. They were advised by their manager's former partner that something shady was going on. Don't re-sign contracts with them. Don't sign, go to the record label, say, we won't sign anything that comes through him. They didn't take that advice. They did end up re-signing with the same manager, and he was really pushing them to do another contract with the label because there was a $300,000 advance involved in that. And there's different things said about why they stayed. A lot of it was probably Pete Hamm. He was known to be super flippin' loyal. Die-hard loyal. If you were a part of his world and in some way good to him, he was kind of your friend for life. He actually wrote a song for Apple Records for the Beatles, kind of like a thank you thing. Don't ask me the title because I can't remember it, but there's a bunch of Badfinger documentaries out there. You will come across it somewhere if you go looking information up about the band. So anyway, all this stuff is going on. It's 1973. They are so far in debt that they're never going to get out of it. They owe everybody. They're not getting the money that they're supposed to. There's no way for them to pay back the money. Royalties, they saw not a penny. Pete Hamm was so upset with all of this that he decided the best course of action was to hang himself. He left a suicide note that was found by his then pregnant with their daughter girlfriend. Her name was Anne. She found him in the garage. The suicide note reads in part, "I will no longer be allowed to love and trust anybody. This is better." The postscript to his suicide note references their manager and him being the slang term refers to an illegitimate child. I'm trying not to say the bad word. But anyway, and that Pete Hamm's intention was basically to take him down with this suicide. Like I said, now, this was hugely problematic for the other members of the band. At one point, Pete Hamm wanted to leave. He was forced back in because if he didn't stay, the record label was going to drop the band. The guys were fighting. So, I mean, this is just not how Pete's world was supposed to work. And he and Tom Evans were, to an extent, don't come for me on saying this, but they were kind of a Lennon-McCartney type of duo as far as their songwriting went. They just meshed really well together. They came up with great songs, great ideas. They had great talent, musically, singing, writing, all of it. Without Pete there, Tom truly struggled. So, in 1983, he also hung himself. And then, like I said, in 2005, one of the other two members dies of a brain aneurysm at home. Most everybody that's involved with this record label stuff is gone, including most of the Beatles, for that matter. And they weren't part of the financial screwing over, but this band just got jerked around every which way but sideways during their, unfortunately, relatively short careers. The band tried to go on without Pete. It really didn't go well, and then they lost Evans, and it was, at that point, it was just done. I mean, you lost the two main songwriters. There just really wasn't going to be a Badfinger without those guys. Okay. In, what was it, April 27th of 2013, the City Council of Swansea, which is Swansea, Wales, actually revealed a plaque honoring Pete Hamm, and that is in his hometown of Swansea in his honor for his contributions. So he is locally recognized. He is recognized throughout the U.S., and I don't even know how many other countries, for his contributions to musical history. I brought in Baby Blue. And so obviously it's going to be something blue. But for me, this particular thing is something that I really, really enjoy, but it's not something that's always in my collection or my rotation. And that's it's a 10. Now, this bottle was originally a 2-ounce, 59.1 milliliter. It now weighs 36.8 grams. I had to put some washi tape on it because I couldn't get a marker to show on this blue. But with the lighting, I think, you can kind of see it looks whiter down here. So I'm putting this in to finish. This is just a Miracle Leave-In conditioning spray. And I put 80 jillion things in my hair, so that one's coming in too. Okay. 2 editions. All kinds of musical trivia about Link Wray and also Badfinger. If you get a chance to check out the documentary Rumble, do so. There's some awesome Native American music in this documentary. It's completely wonderful, and it's really interesting to hear what the different Native American musical artists consider to be native sounding. That was very interesting to me because it also maybe resembles other types of genres too. So, kind of cool to see where things came from. And then I wish I could find the original Badfinger documentary that I had seen, but I can't. There is a bunch of stuff down there. If you just Google or just type into the YouTube search bar Badfinger documentary, you're going to come up with all kinds of stuff. But my songs and the prompt, as usual, will be listed down below with everything else, including Mari's channel, her introduction and explanation of the video, and all that fun stuff. So that is everything I have for you guys this month. Stay tuned for some of my future videos and more information about Wayne Kramer and the MC5. Just a little bit of a teaser. Until next time, see ya. Bye.